Guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. I hope you guys are staying safe. I hope everything's good wherever you are. Guys, Iron Mike Tyson, Mr. Iron Mike Tyson, said to Jermall Lions Only Charlo. He said to Jermall Charlo, why don't you disrespect Canelo? Why don't you swear at his family, swear at his, I think he said something, swear at his mom or something. Disrespect him to get the fight with Saul Canelo Alvarez. Charlo replied that if I do that, then Canelo Alvarez won't fight me. Mike Tyson, we know Mike Tyson did that to Lennox Lewis. And Lennox Lewis wanted to get Mike back. The problem is this era of fighting is completely different. If Jermall Charlo was to disrespect Canelo like that, the way Canelo would punish him, not inside the ring, Canelo would punish him by not giving him that fight. For me, boxers of today have completely different mindsets of boxers of yesteryear, which really irritates me and frustrates me. Because if someone disrespects you, the way you pay that back is by going in the ring and giving him a good beating. Nowadays, boxers like Canelo who have the power, what they do is they teach you a lesson by not fighting you, by not giving you that payday, which I don't like, to be honest with you. And Floyd was probably the fact he did that for me with Khan. I felt like, you know, Khan was trolling him, and I think he taught him a lesson by not fighting him. Khan also did that to Kell Brook, although Khan fought Kell Brook in the end. But the point I'm trying to make is, for me, I don't like that. I don't listen, but the thing is, I also don't like people disrespecting people's families either. So I feel like that's a low way to try get yourself a fight. That's just the way I look at it. I just don't like that stuff. I'm thinking like, what is his family? What is his mom? What is his dad? What have they got to do with it? You know, keep it amongst yourself. But, you know, back in the day, fighters like Mike Tyson used to do that. You know, he said stuff about Lennox Lewis's, I believe, his children or whatever. And that, you know, really fired Lennox up. You know, Lennox wanted to seriously hurt Mike Tyson, you know, because of the things that Mike Tyson said. But those boxers were built differently. They were built different. They were different. Nowadays, boxers are different. It's a different era, different mindset. And unfortunately, as big as Canelo Alvarez is, he's the biggest star in the sport. When you compare it to Iron Mike and what he was in his day, it's not even close. Mike Tyson was an icon of boxing, but you can't really compare. It's hard to compare because Canelo doesn't have the same kind of aura Mike had. Canelo's a better fighter for me than Mike Tyson, but Mike Tyson globally is an icon. You know what I mean? And people to this day, remember, like, to this day, like, if we go on Instagram, right, we look at guys like Canelo and Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury. Look how big they are in current climate. Mike Tyson's got more followers than these guys on Instagram, on Twitter. And Mike, when did he retire? About 20 years ago? 25 years ago? You know what I mean? Think about it. That's crazy. That's how big a star Mike Tyson was. Mike Tyson was a monster in his day. He was an absolute beast. You know, when kids didn't go to sleep at night, mothers used to say, son, go to sleep. Mike Tyson's going to be here. And the kids went to sleep. That's the aura Mike Tyson had back in his day. The Mike we see today, like just his ring walk, the viciousness of Iron Mike Tyson walking to the ring. Wow, that guy he was something. He was something. Guys, don't you wish we had fighters like Mike Tyson today? Guys with the same kind of personality. I was speaking to some young lads actually who were having a chat with me about this, saying that look at Conor McGregor and look how thing. And I was saying to, like, Conor McGregor, the reason why he was big is because in the UFC, there was no one. In boxing, we had so many personalities like Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson that had already set the blueprint. Mike Tyson, for me, after Ali, is the second most famous boxer ever. There isn't a more famous, like after Ali, Mike Tyson is the second most famous, globally recognized. Like when Mike Tyson went to India, India's not even, boxing's not even big there. And Mike Tyson had queues and queues and queues of fans waiting to see him. That's the aura of Mike Tyson. But that wasn't just what Mike Tyson did outside the ring. That was what Mike did inside the ring. Mike was a monster. I think, let's be honest, we were all fans of Iron Mike Tyson. We were all fans. And unfortunately, in boxing today, as great as someone like Canelo is, I don't think we have personalities like a Mike Tyson, like a Muhammad Ali. We don't have it. We don't have those guys. You know, and maybe, like I said, those two are two of the most famous boxers ever. You know, Muhammad Ali is considered the greatest sportsman of all time. You know, but the thing is, we don't, like, so to have those type of fighters that are that famous, they come once in a blue moon. Canelo's a great fighter. Great fighter. For me, like, I'm one of Canelo's biggest fans. I think as a fighter, the guy's phenomenal. But when it comes to aura, when it comes to global appeal, global icon, I don't think Canelo's that. Canelo's a great fighter. But the thing is, it's like, it's hard though. It's hard. It's hard to be like Mike Tyson. It's hard. Like Teddy Atlas said that, you know, you have to be to be big in America, you have to be a Mike Tyson. Canelo's big. Canelo's got a huge fan base. You know, his type of fan base. And Canelo, in the UK, is Canelo a household name in the UK? No, he's not. I don't think if I was to go around and ask people who Canelo is, I don't think many people would know who that is. Like, obviously hardcore boxing fans would know, but I don't think like Mike Tyson, if I go around and ask people who Mike Tyson is in the UK, everybody knows him. If I go to Pakistan or India and ask people who Mike Tyson is, everybody knows him. They wouldn't know Canelo. But that's because Canelo is a great fighter. And certain people, they have a superstar type of appeal. Canelo's a superstar because he's a great boxer. Mike Tyson was a very good boxer. Even though I don't think Mike, and people may hate on me for this, I don't think Mike Tyson was anywhere near Canelo. No, I wouldn't say anywhere near, but I don't think he was as good as Canelo. I don't think he's going to go down as great as what Canelo's going to go down as a fighter and where Canelo's going to rank in history of boxing, because I think Canelo, for me, is greater than Mike Tyson when it's all said and done, in terms of what Canelo's going to go on to achieve. But Canelo will never have the fame that Iron Mike Tyson had. And not just Canelo, nobody. There's no one in boxing that has half of Mike Tyson's, you know, fame. The heavyweights, Tyson, Fury, you know, Anthony, they don't even come close. But that was the aura of Iron Mike Tyson. That was the aura. He was something else. You know, Mike Tyson transcended, but you know what? He made boxing bigger. How many fights, like Ali made boxing, like the whole of boxing bigger. Mike Tyson made the whole of boxing bigger. We were all fans. Let's be honest. I know some Canelo fans might not like what I'm saying here, but even you guys know that Mike Tyson and the impact that man had on the sport. Like, he was an icon. And as boxing fans, hardcore boxing fans, we need to love people like that because they help grow our sport. They help make our sport. Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, these type of people help make our sport what it is today. So they paved the way, you know. Some people say Mike Tyson isn't even an all-time great. What do you guys think? Was Mike Tyson an all-time great fighter? Was Mike Tyson a guy that was a bully? You know, when someone put it back on him. He couldn't deal with it. How do you guys rate Mike Tyson? Are you a massive fan of Mike Tyson? Are you a fanboy of Mike Tyson? Because I respect Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson is a legend. Irrespective of what you think of him as his fighting ability, Mike Tyson is a legend. When Canelo went to the hot boxing, Canelo's the biggest star in boxing today. Did you see how much respect he had for Iron Mike? Because he knows what this man did for the sport of boxing. He knows what Mike Tyson meant to boxing. He knows the impact that Mike Tyson had on boxing. You know, like I said, he's the second most famous boxer of all time behind Muhammad Ali. I think most of you would agree. I don't think there's been better fighters, of course, Sugar Ray Leonard, Hagler, but none of those guys, Duran, none of those guys had the name that Iron Mike had. None of those guys. Iron Mike had an aura. He had something about him that we all gravitated to. We all loved Iron Mike. We all loved him. He was special. Iron Mike had something about him. But what Mike's got to understand, by Canelo, by Jermall, and firstly, Jermall's not Mike Tyson. Jermall doesn't have that aura. I know he has that hard man, and he's not Mike. You know, Mike was a monster. But secondly, for me, boxing has changed now. Boxing isn't what fighters don't think the way they did back in the day. So if Jermall was to disrespect like Canelo like that, Canelo ain't gonna fight him. I don't see Canelo fighting him. And that's just the way things have changed. And I think Floyd, also a guy that I felt made boxing bigger. But Floyd, for me, kind of changed the mindset a little bit of boxing fans. Now, in today's time, a lot of fighters want to keep their a lot of fighters don't want to get beat. These are all things that Floyd changed in the sport. You know, Floyd, if you were to troll Floyd and get under his skin, the way he would punish you is by not fighting you. And these are all things that have been changed because of Mayweather, for me. So Mike Tyson was a ruthless brute force back in his day, but things have changed. Things have drastically changed. We don't have the same mindset of today that we had 20 years ago. And for me, it's not for the good. You know, I actually think in terms of like, I just don't think we'll have characters like that anymore. I think the world's changed as well. I think the current climate has changed. I think some of the things that people like Mike Tyson said can't be said in today's climate. And most importantly, not everybody has that in them. Mike Tyson, when Mike Tyson said something, Mike Tyson wasn't doing it for the cameras. Mike Tyson meant that. You look at Mike Tyson's eyes when he was saying things. He wasn't Conor McGregor type. He meant it. When Mike Tyson said, I'm coming to do damage, like you could see it in his face. He weren't messing around, or he weren't doing it for promotion or showboating. He meant it. That's why he was such a big superstar. People felt what he was saying. So even though it was showbiz, Mike Tyson was real. And nowadays, the boxers have changed, the climate, the world, everything has changed. So you won't get away with some of the stuff that was said back then. Now, you know, and the fighter's mindset has changed. You know, Jermall is saying that he's called out Canelo for 5 or 6 years. But it is what it is. Leave your thoughts. Let me know what you think about the things that I've said in this video. I'd love to know your opinions about Iron Mike, about what Mike Tyson said about, you know, Jermall should disrespect Canelo to get a fight with him. What do you guys think? Leave your thoughts. and let me know what you think. Leave your opinions in the comment section below. I'd love to know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.